どうしたヤマト。
僕は
登録する。
いや、それは海賊王が言った言葉だ。
Car D Kaizoku.
Alright, welcome to the part 2 video of my OP06 first impression, where I look at a lot of these OP06 cards for the first time. Yesterday we looked at red, green, and blue. I'll have that linked in a video somewhere. But in this video we'll be doing the remaining cards in the set, so purple, black, and yellow. I'll just start off with this first card here, Vinsmoke Ichiji. I know for the Germa 66 cards there's like 2 versions of each sibling, so this is the low cost one, I believe. Let's see what he does. Activate main, Dawn -1, you may trash this character. If your leader has the Germa 66 type, you may play up to 1 7-cost Ichiji from your hand or trash. Yeah, he's just an activator for the bigger version, the suited up version, which should be the next card here, 7-cost Ichiji in his Germa suit. On play, if you have equal to or less Dawn on your field than your opponent, give up to one of your opponent's character -2k for this turn, and then you gain rush. So he's like 7-cost ace, but only -2k and only to 1 character. But you do almost kind of get to play him for like 4 Dawn only with this Ichiji. I think that's good. This is kind of what I wanted in Red Purple Law. A card that can gain rush and give power down. That's not ace. So I like this card so far. Next up is Vinsmoke Judge, the worst father of the year himself. Not of the year, of the eternity. All time. Yeah, one of the worst characters in One Piece actually. See what he does. He's 8 cost. On play, Dawn -1, you may trash 2 cards from your hand. Play up to 4 Germa 66 type character cards with 4000 power or less from your trash with different names. Activate main once per turn, Dawn -1, rest up to one of your opponent's Dawn cards. Okay, so the activate main's probably not as useful, but the on play is pretty crazy. I'm guessing all the non-suited up versions of the siblings are 4000 power or less, right? Because we see Ichiji here. And I could probably look ahead a few cards, but let's just try to do it in order. I'm just going to assume they're all 4000 power or less, so you can play all 4 siblings. And then they can Dawn -1 further to cheat out their like suited version. That's pretty crazy. -1 Dawn for a board swarm of up to 4 cards if you can mill yourself enough. The thing is there enough mill, self-mill, in purple to make it worth, or whatever leader you're running that is part purple? So we have blue-purple Reiju, which makes the most sense to run this card in. Yeah, and I guess cards like Kaya, and then what else can self-mill? I guess you'll run some of the East Blue cards that self-mill to help activate this deck. Or you could run purple-black, maybe, and use black cards to mill yourself. I don't know, we'll see. Up next is Vinsmoke Sora. This is Sanji's mom, if I remember correctly. Spoilers. Let's see, it's a 2k counter. On play, you may discard a card from your hand if you have equal to or less Dawn on your field than your opponent. Add to your hand up to 1 character card with 4000 power or less that has Vinsmoke in its type from the trash to your hand, I guess. This is like a fan translation, so the grammar might be a little wrong. So if you play it, you can basically swap a card in your hand for a non-suited up version of one of the siblings. Well, anyway, it's a 2k counter, but it could be good for like recycling some useful card like this Ichiji into 7-cost Ichiji. So yeah, some utility outside of being a 2k counter for 1. Seems worth it. Up next is Vinsmoke Niji, the non-suited version. Yeah, he's under 4000 power, so our assumption is pretty true so far. What does he do? Dawn -1. If your leader is Germa 66, you can play a 5-cost Niji from your trash. Okay, so same thing as Ichiji, but for the Niji. I guess that's what all the non-suited up versions do. So here's the suited up version, 5-cost on play. If you have equal to or less Dawn, you can choose one of 2 effects. K up to one of your opponent's characters that cost 2 or less, or return a 4-cost to its owner's hand. Bouncing a 4-cost seems good. KOing a 2-cost doesn't seem as useful unless you're pairing it with black. And then the only purple-black leader is Z right now, right? Yeah, I think they'll need to make like a black-purple Germa 66 leader in the future. Honestly, I thought Judge was going to be a leader in this set, but it doesn't seem like he is. But that could be like a future thing. So, kind of mid, I'm going to have to say. Next up is the non-suited up version of Yonji. Yeah, he does the same thing as Ichiji and Niji, so let's look at the suited up version, 4-cost. If you have equal to or less Dawn on your field than your opponent, this character gains plus 1000 power, and he has blocker. So you're minusing 1 Dawn to get a 4-cost blocker out with 6k power. For 2 Dawn though. That seems pretty good, right? Blockers are always useful, especially a 2-cost for a 6k blocker if he's in your discard. I'm gonna put this guy in the good category. Next up is Vinsmoke Reiju. The non-suited up version does exactly what the other ones do, so let's look at the suited up one. 4-cost, 1k counter on play if you have equal to or less Dawn on your field than your opponent. If you have 5 or less cards in hand, draw 2 cards. This is really good. This is amazing. 4 Dawn with the body and you draw 2 cards. But yeah, you do have to be less Dawn than your opponent, but the Reiju deck seems like it'll always be less Dawn than your opponent. And this is perfect for Red Purple Law actually, because he does run into like hand problems and consistency issues, so being able to draw 2 cards and cheat out a body seems really good. Right, whenever you leader ability to play her, you'll always be less Dawn unless you're playing the mirror. So it's minus 3 Dawn for a 5k body and draw 2 cards, which sounds insane. Huh. I'm pretty sure this is a 4 of in Red Purple Law. Okay, up next is El Dorago. I don't remember what this guy's from, but purple film vanilla. Does this help the Uta deck? Gives it a vanilla option at least. Okay, up next is Guild Tesoro, another Tesoro card. 5 cost on play, Dawn -1 if your leader has the film type. How did I read it that way? At 2 cost, 4 cost or lower film type characters from your stash to your hand. That sounds pretty good, right? -1 Dawn to draw 2 cards from your discard, essentially. 4 and lower doesn't seem too hard to reach. Yeah. If Red Purple Film would be an archetype, I feel like this would be a staple card in it. Next up is Cosette. If your leader has the Germa type and your board has 2 or more Dawn, less than your opponent, this character gains a blocker. 1 cost conditional blocker, has 1k counter. Not amazing, but could be runnable. Next up is another Shiki. 2 costs with blocker. If your board has 8 or more Dawn, draw 1 card, then discard 1 card from your hand. I don't know, there's a bunch of other better 2-cost blockers. He just lets you cycle at the late game. But 2-cost blocker is a 2-cost blocker. So I guess... Well, this one dies to Robin though. I don't know. Probably not that great since you have other options. Next up is Zephyr, Young Zephyr. Dawn -1 on play. Nullify all abilities from up to one of your opponent's characters this turn. Then if that character has 5,000 power or less, KO it. What? Nullify all abilities. So you can get rid of immune to KO and stuff like that. And does that mean like on KO effects don't work? Like Marco's Revive? I'll have to look up the ruling for that. What the heck? There's like a bajillion rulings for Zephyr in the Q&A. Such a complicated card. Let's see, which one's relevant to our question? If I use this character's on-play effect to negate the effect of and KO my opponent's character with an on-KO effect, will the on-KO effect of my opponent's character be activated? No, it will not. Okay, yeah, so it does work that way. Stop Marco from reviving. Not that Marco needs any counter at this point, because red is pretty much dead from the meta. See, I use the on-play effect of Otama to give -2k power to my opponent's character with the base power of 7k. Can I use this character's on-play effect to KO my opponent's character? Yes, you can. Okay, so the -2k that you put on a character does not get nullified, because it's not an effect, right? The status. Can I use this character's on-play effect to KO a character with 5,000 power or less that is subject to the on-play effect of my opponent's Sabo? None of your characters can be KO'd by effects until the start of your next turn. No, you cannot. Huh. So the unable to be KO'd that is given to it by Sabo does not count as the card's ability? I guess in this case it's like a -2k effect too? Or does it mean that it's only abilities that are like native to the card? But anyway, Sabo does protect from Zephyr, it seems like. But then the first ruling is relevant probably. If the character I choose according to this on-play effect is subject to effects such as gains plus 1000 power during this turn, does this on-play effect reset the character's power to its base power? No, it does not. Yeah, so it seems like buffs? Yeah, so it seems like power buffs are not considered abilities? Like, yeah, the card has no ability, but it does have the 1k buff, which at that point is not an ability, it's just a buff. Right, that makes sense, right? Yeah, okay. Pretty sure there's gonna be a lot of judge calls on this card. If this card is popular at all. It seems like it would be though. 7 Dawn remove, 5k or less. And since it's looking at power, it does synergize well with red. since it's not cost-based removal, so I like this card. Up next is Earl Battler. Dawn -1 on play, rest up to 2 of your opponent's characters with the cost of 2 or less. This is doo-doo. Up next is Hitokiri Kamazo, another killer card. 2k counter. Spoilers if you didn't know, this is killer. Okay, your turn. Once per turn, when you return Dawn on your field to your Dawn deck, KO up to 1 of your opponent's characters with the cost of 2 or less. Well, it's a 2k counter, and it's a supernova, so can't complain. It's a kid pirate too, yeah. Yeah, it gives like a kid tribal deck a 2k counter option, at least. Up next is Black Bug. 4 cost event. Main, if the number of Dawn on your Dawn field is equal to or less than your opponent's Dawn. Piss up to 1 of your opponent's cost 5 or less characters on the bottom of its owner's deck. A 4 Dawn, 3000 worlds in purple. Sounds good, because 3000 worlds is good, but this is a little more conditional. But purple decks don't have a hard time being less Dawn than your opponent. Oh, but then it's being less Dawn at 4 Dawn. So your opponent's probably at like 6, 7 Dawn. Would they be playing 5 cost characters? Yeah, that makes sense actually. And then the trigger lets you place 1 of your opponent's 4 cost or less characters on the bottom. Yeah, that's really good then. Okay, yeah, I like this card, Black Bug. Then we have a Germa 66 event. The Searcher event looks at the top 5. With the triggers, lets you draw a card. The trigger doesn't let you play it. I wonder why. Is it too broken if it lets you search as a trigger? But I think this card is good, because the Germa cards are pretty good. And then finally we have the stage card, Germa Kingdom. You may discard 1 card, then rest this stage. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal 1 Germa type, and add it to your hand. Then send the remaining cards to the bottom. So it's like the Revolutionary Army stage card and the Impel Down one. You can cycle out a card in your hand for a specific Germa card that you're looking for. This could be good, I don't know. Depends on how the Germa deck plays. I'll have to see it in person or see it played live. Right, moving on to black, we have Gecko Moria Leader. Dawn ×1 when attacking. For 2 Dawn, discard 1 card from your hand. Put the top 2 cards of your deck into trash and then play a Thriller Bark Pirates character with the cost of 4 or less from trash. So kind of like Arlong and Blue Doflamingo. I think initially I thought it might have been worse than Blue Doflamingo because Blue Doflamingo plays from the top of your deck, so you're essentially drawing a card, never losing card advantage in hand. But Gecko Moria does just require you to discard a card. And then I think I mentioned that it really depends on what the rest of the Thriller Bark Pirates cards are to make this worth it. So let's look. Maybe there's cards that like draw you cards back if you play them from discard. First card here is Absalom. 4 cost on play. You may return 2 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. KO up to 1 character with the cost of 2 or less. I think this is good, right? It's a KO effect that you can play from your leader ability. So you don't even need it in hand. As long as it's in your discard, you can have access to it. It KOs only at 2 costs, but that doesn't mean anything in black. With the amount of cost reduction that's available, 2 costs can mean up to like 6 costs, 7 costs. It can kill pretty much anything as long as you set it up. I think this is one of the better cards for Gecko Moria deck, but we'll see the rest of the cards. But starting off pretty strong. Okay, next card is Inupe. On play and on KO, if your leader has a Thriller Bark Pirates type, draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards from your hand. Yeah, just to fill your discard with more useful targets to bring back, I guess. So it's probably run in Gecko Moria as like a utility card for 2 Dawn. Seems worth it. He can do it on KO too, so double up the effect. Up next is Oars. 4 cost, 7k power. This character cannot attack. Okay. Activate main, you may K up to 1 of your Thriller Bark Pirate types characters. This character loses all abilities until the end of the turn. Okay. So he has an elevated stat line for 4 cost, and he can't attack unless you KO another character. I guess the good thing is that you can attack with that other character first and then you can KO it, but I don't know if it's worth it to swing for 7. But yeah, you can cheat this guy out from your discard with your leader ability. I wonder if there's another way to like cheese with him without having to KO another character, but we'll look at the rest of the cards. Next card is Jigoro of the Wind. On KO, give up to 1 of your leaders or characters plus 1k. This turn, 2 Dawn doesn't seem that great. Next up is Kumasi. Dawn ×2, your turn. For every 5 cards in your trash, this character gains plus 1000 power for 2 Dawn. So he has to live to your next turn, and then you need to attach 2 Dawn to get that buff. I don't think this is good, because he dies to like Fire Fist, all the red triggers, Marco, Vista, Lucci, Helmblaze. Yeah, this card sucks. Then we have SR for black. Gecko Moria as a character. On play, choose up to one cost 4 or less and up to one cost 2 or less character card from your trash. Play one of them and then play the remaining rested for 8. So it's 8 Dawn for 3 bodies? That sounds like Rebecca but power crept? What the heck? You can even play Rebecca with Gecko Moria. So you can potentially play 4 bodies. Aww. I was not expecting like a swarm card in black. And then only one of the cards played has to be rested. This is crazy good, right? Let's see, what can you do with Gecko Moria? So you can play him, bring back a Rebecca, which brings back like a 2k counter to hand, and then you can play out some other 2 cost out, like Inupe. So you get a 9k body, a blocker, a 2k to hand, and then another body on board. That's one way to use it, I guess. How else? I guess with this Gecko Moria, you can bring back Absalom too. And then if you have another way to cost reduce, you can KO something. What's a 2 cost reduction card? I don't know. The only one I can think of is like a Tsudu. The 2k countered Tsudu. You can play that out rested and then play Absalom to KO like a 4 cost. But yeah, I think this guy and Hody have been like the 2 strongest SRs I've seen so far. Would be interested to see what are the best choices for this guy to play out. Oh, in a Perona deck, you can play out Ryuma, right? Because this guy doesn't specify that it has to be a black character. So you can bring back that 4 cost Ryuma that can KO a rested 4 cost. And then yeah, if you do the Tsudu thing, you can KO a 6 cost. Okay, I can see why Perona is good. If they can run Gecko Moria this way. He's probably good in Sakazuki too, since he can bring back Rebecca and then like even a brand new. You can bring brand new out rested. Or Tashigi to draw a card. Yeah, that's insane. You can bring back Rebecca blocker that draws you a 2k, and then Tashigi or brand new that draws you another card. So 9k body, blocker, and draw 2 cards for 8 Dawn. This might be number 1 so far in the set. Right, up next is Cerberus, 2 Dawn, Thriller Bark Pirates blocker, standard. I guess you can play it via Gecko Moria too. Up next is Sai. Your leader has the Dressrosa type and your leader is active. This character gains plus 2k. Okay, Rebecca, support. That's a 3 Dawn for 6k. So long as you don't use your leader to rest herself for any of the effects like protecting a Kairos or like Leo. I don't think that's enough to save the deck, but it does give you like an early aggressive option. Up next is Tararan. On play and on KO, trash the top 3 cards of your deck. Honestly, I like the Inupe more, since you can cycle your hand too. So if I had to choose between the 2, I'd rather run Inupe. Up next is Dr. Hogback. On play, return 2 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. Put up to 1 Thriller Bark card other than Dr. Hogback from your trash to your hand. Yeah, so essentially draws you a card. That sounds good. This guy's probably run in Gecko Moria deck for sure, because you can play it out with the 8 cost Gecko Moria too. A lot of card draw in black. Up next is Victoria Sindri, 2k counter on play. If your leader has Thriller Bark Pirates, trash 5 cards from the top of your deck. It's a 2k counter and it's an emergency self-mill if you need it. Great card. Up next is Brook, not a Thriller Bark Pirate type. Oh yeah, because he's not in Gecko Moria's crew, but he's on Thriller Bark, the island. On play, choose 1. Put up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less into their trash. And then the other effect is your opponent puts 3 cards from their trash to the bottom of their deck in any order. Yeah, here's that thing again where I said like the mechanic of a color is countered within the same color. Where like black utilizes a lot of cards from discard, but it's a black card that removes cards from their discard. I don't get how that works. Like you counter a color by playing that color itself, then why would you need to counter it if you are that color already? Maybe it's for the mirror, I guess. But let's see, is this card good? Maybe 6 cost to KO a 4 cost, and he's a 6k body himself, but no counter. Borderline then, because you can't really cheat him out with Gecko Moria or anything. But it's KO effect that doesn't require you to discard a card or anything. Yeah, maybe good. So I was in the middle of editing this video and I happened to reread his effect, and I thought it was kind of weird that the first effect never explicitly says that it's a KO effect. And I was wondering if it was just like a mistranslation, but I checked like the official like Singapore or like Asia English translation, and it never uses the word KO explicitly. So I decided to take a look at the Q&A, and lo and behold, it does not count as a KO effect actually. So you can KO Borsalino with this effect, and on KO effects don't get activated from this trashing. So it is a way to KO without actually being a KO. That is a new thing in black. So I think this is a good card actually. It's the first card that can do that. Up next is Perona, character Perona. It's a 2k. There's two 2k Thriller Barks. On play, if your opponent has 5 or more cards in their hand, choose one of the following. Your opponent discards 1 card, or you give up to one of your opponent's characters -3 cost. Well, it's a 2k counter, so you'll run it for sure, but yeah, I think it's pretty good on play too. You make them discard a card. Hold on for 5 isn't too steep of a price. Yeah, I like this card. Up next is a Thriller Bark Vanilla, Lola, 4 cost, so we'll move on. Okay, finally to yellow, the last color. So Isa is a Sky Island card, more support for Enel, I guess, or Sky Island in general. I think I see Katakuri run Sky Island sometimes. 2k counter on play, look at the top card of your opponent's life, and then place it at the top or bottom. Not useful, but more useful than Konis, so probably run Isa instead of Konis. Next is Inu Arashi. On ×2, when attacking, you may discard 1 card from your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with the cost equal to or less than the number of your opponent's current life cards. Trigger, if your opponent has 3 life cards or less, play this card. Okay, so you discard a card after attaching 2 Dawn, and you can KO something like Gedatsu can. I think I'd rather just play Gedatsu because he does it on play. You don't have to wait a turn, because you want to deal with things the turn you play him, right? But he does have trigger, so you can trigger him when you get hit and then attack the next turn. So maybe he's good. If Gedatsu is good, this guy should be good too, right? Put him in the good pile. Next up is Onami. 2 Dawn on play, give up to one of your leader characters banish. Whoa. 2 Dawn to give banish to your leader. And she's yellow, so you can run it in green, yellow Yamato. So you can get double banish, double attack banish with this Onami for 2 Dawn. So on your second turn going second, you can attack for 7k, double banish. Pretty nice. And then trigger, KO up to one of your opponent's 5 cost or lower characters. What the heck? It's a Thunderbolt trigger. What? So you can potentially run 8 Thunderbolt effects in your deck as a trigger? Or I guess you could just replace Thunderbolt outright with this Nami card, because Thunderbolt's kind of a dead card in hand sometimes. Because you don't want to play it, because you have to like trash a life to do it. Yeah, Nami becomes useful even as a card in hand, because you can give yourself banish. This is a great card. With horrible art. What the heck is up with their shoulder? Yeah, the perspective is really weird. Sorry to the artist of this card. I don't like it. The anatomy is quite bad. I wonder if this card has an alt art. I think this would be one of the cards where I actually don't use the base art for. Right, up next is Kamakiri. 3 cost, activate main. Once per turn, place a 1 cost stage at the bottom of its owner's deck. K up to one of your opponent's cost 2 or lower characters. Okay, so another card that utilizes that scrapyard stage from OP05. KOing a 2 cost is not as useful unless you're black-yellow Big Mom with access to black. So this could be good for a black-yellow Sky Island Big Mom deck. Trigger, if you have 2 or less life cards, play this card. Yeah, it's free body, so can't complain. This guy's really niche. Probably only good in black-yellow Big Mom if she is meta at all. Next up is Kawamatsu, the yellow Land of Wano card. When attacking, you may discard 2 cards, return up to one of your power 0 characters to the top or bottom of its owner's life face up. So you can like heal a Shirahoshi back to your life by discarding 2 cards. That doesn't seem worth it. If your opponent's life is at 3 or less, play this card. Okay, so he's a free body on trigger after you double swing with Yamato. Double attack on Yamato. It's not a double swing, I should specify. Double attack. You have to discard 2 cards to heal 1. I don't know, I don't think it's worth it. Because there's trigger effects that already do that. This one requires you to get the body to stick and then attack with it. So yeah, in the bad pile you go. Up next is Kikunojo. 4 cost on KO. If your opponent's life is 3 or less, place the top card of your deck to the top of your life. Trigger, if your opponent is at 3 or less life, play this card. This sounds good. Yeah, when he dies, he heals. Especially in green yellow Yamato. The effect is always active most of the time. I can't say always and most of the time, right? I'm pretty sure 95% of the time you'll meet the requirements for this on KO. Hey, and the fact that you can trigger out too is probably a 4 of in Yamato or any deck that runs yellow. Right, up next is Gembo, Sky Island, vanilla, like holy stat line, so I don't know why we need another one. Up next is Kozuki Hiyori. Yellow 2k counter, Wano 2k counter. On play, you may put the top or bottom card of your life pile into your hand. Then put a card back. Probably won't ever play it, but the 2k counter nonetheless. Oh, I guess you can combo this with Kawamatsu too. Yeah, because she's 0 power, so you can put her back on top. But she herself doesn't have a trigger, so it's just a heal. Right, up next is Kozuki Momonosuke, Adult Momonosuke. This is a spoiler, in case you're not caught up on Wano. 5 cost blocker. On play, place up to one of your Wano type characters other than Momonosuke on the top or bottom of its owner's life pile face up. Oh, he's a blocker that heals you. That sounds really good. Especially with these cards here, that trigger when your opponent has 3 or less life. So yeah, if you're running Kikunojo, you're probably running Momonosuke too. Makes the most sense. And then when Kikunojo dies, you heal again. So a lot of longevity here built into the yellow Land of Wano package, which is great, but it's the support that it needed, I think. Next up is Tenguyama Hitetsu. 1 cost, no effect, but has a trigger up to one of your Land of Wano type leader or characters, gain plus 2k during this turn. I don't think this is good at all. And then we have Denjiro. 5 cost, no counter, Dawn times 2. If your opponent's life is at 3 or less, this character cannot be KO'd by effects. And then trigger lets you play it if your opponent is at 3 or less life. I think he's good. Yeah, just unable to be KO'd by jet pistols and stuff. The only thing is that a lot of the good removal is in blue, which can bottom deck, so he's not immune to that. But 6k body for free via trigger isn't too bad. I don't think I'll ever hardcast him though, so maybe Kikunojo is better, because Kikunojo is still 4 cost 6k, which is like a standard stat line to begin with. Yeah, so far Kikunojo is the best of the trigger Land of Wano cards. Up next is Nekomamushi. Dawn times 2, this character can also attack your opponent's active characters and has the same trigger that lets you play at 3 life. Your opponent's at 3 life, I mean. Probably better than Denjiro, because if you trigger this guy out, you can attack back into like a card that they're saving, or a card that they just played. So you don't have to waste your swing on a leader if you can remove their board, so you can starve them out that way. Yeah, I like this. Maybe a little less than Kikunojo, but the next best. Up next is Braham. Another Sky Island card. Activate main once per turn. Place a stage card at the bottom of its owner's deck. Press up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. Okay, another way to use that Scrapyard card. And then trigger, if you have 2 or less life, you can play it. Is it worth it to run the stage card for this card? Potentially, but he has a 4k stat line, that's the thing. I don't know, I think Enel runs best the way he is right now with Om Holy and then Yamato and Katakuri. So it's going to be hard to like slot in any cards that like utilize the stage. Up next is Raizo, a yellow Raizo card. When attacking, you may discard 1 card from your hand, rest up to one of your opponent's Dawn, and then you can trigger him out if your opponent has 3 or less life. I don't think he is good. If he had Rush, maybe, because then he'd be like a mini Hody Jones, but on his own, seems kind of not worth it. Up next is Raki. I don't remember this character, but she would have been my favorite if I do remember, because she does look like quite the baddie. If you have a Shandora warrior type character other than Raki, this character gains blocker. 1 cost, conditional blocker. What were the other Shandora warriors? Okay, this guy is 1. This is 1. Okay, that's why they created a new vanilla. This guy is 1. I don't know. The other Shandora warriors don't seem worth it to run, so I probably won't run Raki too, which is unfortunate because I like the art. Up next is Wiper. Wiper, no wiping. You should wipe though. Don't be that guy at your card shop. You. Okay, what does Wiper do? On play, you may return 1 cost 1 stage to the bottom of its owner's deck. So yeah, utilizes that stage card. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 upper yard or Shandora warrior type card and add it to your hand. Okay, so it lets you search on play, and he's a 5 cost 7k. And then Scrapyard lets you search anyway. Is it called Scrapyard or Upper Yard? I've been calling it Scrapyard this whole time, but this card says it's called Upper Yard, so I don't know, just pretend I said Upper Yard the entire video up until now. But yeah, it sounds great if you're running that stage card, because that stage card lets you search itself, so you can search twice. Good for filling up your hand for card advantage. I like this guy if you're running Upper Yard deck. Up next is a black event. Oh, the sim didn't put the black events after the black characters, I guess I can easily edit the order in post, so I guess you'll see. Let's see, 2 cost, black event, main and counter. Your leader gains plus 1k during this turn, then you may KO any number of your 2 cost or less characters with the Thriller Bark Pirates type. For each KO'd character, your leader gains plus 1k during this turn. Trigger, draw 2 cards and trash 1 from your hand. I don't think this card is good, because you'll be forced to run a lot of the trash 2 cost Thriller Bark cards. Because I think it's really just that character Gecko Moria and like Absalom that is worth it. Yeah, Hoop card. Next card is Nothing Happened. One of the best Zoro scenes in the series, I have to say. The 3 cost event counter, add the top card of your life to your hand. All of your cost 7 or lower characters cannot be KO'd in battle this turn. Trigger, activate this card's counter effect. I don't think it's worth it. Price of 1 life card to protect all your characters. Then once your opponent just starts swinging at your life, so you're making yourself more vulnerable to save your characters, and then you could just die from being attacked after that. I don't know, it might be good if you're running like a board full of blockers and then you can just block for free, they don't die. Seems too situational to me, but maybe it is viable, but off the top of my head, I don't think it is. Up next is Negative Hollow. 2 costs, main, trash 1 card from your opponent's hand. Trigger, activate this card's main ability. So you're spending a card to take a card out. I don't think it's worth. If it was spend a card to make your opponent discard 2, it might be worth. But spending 2 Dawn for this, yeah, wouldn't you just rather attach 2 Dawn to your leader, attack them, and then they'll have to counter for like a 2k and a 1k? That's 2 cards out of hand for 2 Dawn. Yeah, don't like this card. Up next is You're the One Who Should Disappear. Oh, moving back to yellow events, depending on how I edit this. So 0 cost, counter, you may trash 1 card from your hand. Your leader or one of your characters gets plus 3k for this battle. Okay, so it's a 0 cost, discard 3k counter in yellow. Yellow finally gets 1. Trigger, if you have 0 life cards, put the top card of your deck onto your life pile, then trash 1 card from your hand. Whoa. So it's like a Enel leader ability built into the trigger. Guess you can really save your ass as Enel if you trigger this card. Or actually, if you have 1 life and you trigger this card, and then Enel's leader ability triggers, you heal 2 life, right? At the price of discarding 2 cards in hand, but yeah, you can heal 2 life. That's good. Sounds good. We'll have to wait and see. And then 4 cost, reject. Main, choose one of the following, K up to one of your opponent's 5 cost or lower characters. And then the other effect is if your opponent has 1 life, deal 1 damage to them, then add the top card of your life to your hand. I don't know about that second effect, but yeah, you can KO a 5 cost for 4. That sounds efficient already. They don't have to be rested or anything or need specific power threshold, just 5 cost or lower. Could be especially potent in, again, a black-yellow Big Mom deck. So maybe black-yellow Big Mom got a big buff from OP06. But I can imagine Katakuri and Enel running this too. Because the Jet Pistol is 4 cost and it kills a 6k. And 6k stat line is like a 4 cost card. This kills a 5 cost, which usually means 7k stat line. So this is actually better than Jet Pistol. But yeah, the trigger, you don't get it via trigger. But it does have a trigger. The trigger just draws you a card though. But yeah, there's no like harm in running this card. You draw it, use it to KO. If you trigger it, draw a card. Or keep it in hand actually, if you don't need it. Very versatile card. I can imagine Katakuri running it. Yeah, any yellow deck should run this card for sure. And then we have Thriller Bark Stage. Yeah, I'm not going to edit the order. I'll just, you guys will just see that it's out of order. Not through anything I did. It's just how the sim is. Which is weird because the red, green, and blue cards were in the correct order. Alright, what does this do? Activate main for 1 Dawn. Rest this stage. If your leader has Thriller Bark, you may play a 1 or 2 cost Thriller Bark character from your trash. Oh, This makes me rethink if the 2 cost Thriller Bark cards are maybe not as bad as I thought. Because this stage lets you play them for free from your discard. Not for free, but for 1 Dawn extra. Interesting. Any of them worth it though? You can play a blocker from your discard anytime with this stage card. Yeah, it's really just like a blocker or Inupe that lets you cycle. These are the only 2 cards that are worth it, I feel. So, potentially a good stage card, but not with the current Thriller Bark support. Maybe in the future. And lastly, we have Ark Maxum, Sky Island stage card. Oh, so there's a second stage card you can use. This one's not upper yard though. Activate main. Once per turn, you may rest this stage and one of your Enel. KO all of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less. What? Board wipe? And this one can't be used in Black Yellow Big Mom, so you can't use Black's cost removal, so they balanced it out that way. So this is Enel's tech against Weenie Swarm. But to be honest, Enel never really had problems against Weenie Swarm. Like, one of the decks it counters the most is Red Zoro, actually. So I don't think it needed this card. Maybe there will be a Black Yellow Enel in the future. I don't know, but yeah, I don't think this card is necessary at all. Alright, that wraps up my OP06 first impression for the remaining colors. In the second half of the set, what card stood out to me? This Momo seems really good. A blocker that can heal. Kikunojo sounds really good. It's a 6k attacker that anytime you kill him, he heals, so usually he'll probably be left unchecked. Kikunojo is gendered as a guy, right? I always get it confused because I know Okiku was the name that they used when they presented as a woman, right? Was that the story? And then Kikunojo is their original name, their boy name. Because yeah, Kikunojo is a boy's name, and Okiku is more of a feminine name. So that makes sense to me, unless I completely got that backstory wrong. So apologies if I did. Didn't try to misgender them. Onami is great. Thunderbolt trigger. You can just throw her in as a 4-of in any yellow deck. Character Gecko Moria seems amazing, amazingly busted. I can't decide between him and Hody as my favorite secret rare of the set. Super rare, whatever SR means. And then my final verdict on Gecko Moria now that I've seen the rest of the Thriller Bark cards. Maybe he's good, because Absalom is good, and then Gecko Moria is pretty good for recursion. Yeah, I thought like being down a card when you cheat out something would set you far behind. But the fact that this Gecko Moria can potentially draw you like 2 cards when you play him, depending on the characters you bring back, that seems to make it up. That seems to make up for it. Was there anything cool in purple? Yeah, just the entire Germa package seems pretty cool. Find a way to self-mill yourself all the relevant cards in your discard and then play this Judge and then fill your entire board with like Ichiji, Niji, Sanji, and then Reiju. So on your 8 Dawn turn, you can get a 7k out with Rush. This guy can bounce a card, 6k. And then you have a blocker too, in case you need defense, and then Reiju can draw you 2 cards. I'm gonna have to make Reiju videos to get that combo off. Would like to feel what it's like to assemble the team, the Power Rangers. But definitely, I think the best card here is Reiju. So yeah, those are my thoughts on OP06. This set does seem to look like it'll shake things up. Maybe Sakazuki won't be the sole best deck in the format after this. Let me know if I missed any interactions or any cards that I might have underjudged in the comments below. I'll probably start doing OP06 videos soon because I am getting a little sick of OP05. I've been playing it for, it'll be 11 weeks now. So yeah, would be a good time for a change, even though Nationals is coming up. Oh well though. If I feel like I'm not having fun with the game anymore, I'm probably not going to make videos, so just gotta keep making the game feel fun to me. So we'll just switch to a new set soon. But until then, thanks for watching, and if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe. Again, for some reason, I don't know why, it works when you remind people to subscribe, even though I hate hearing it, but it works for some people. So I'm gonna swallow my shame and ask. Okay, bye.
Card D Kaizoku.